Meaning?
The blood that flows through your veins shares a chromosome or two at the genetic level with the one you call Jesus. Bethany, you are the great, 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 great grandniece of Jesus Christ. So, that would make Bethany part black?
Tonight in movie reviews, we're talking Dogma. Stay tuned. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the show. I appreciate you tuning in for another brand new review, and what a treasure to be tuning in for tonight, because we are talking one of my absolute favorite films of all time, and without question my favorite Kevin Smith movie. Tonight in movie reviews, we are talking Dogma. Now, some of you are probably wondering, what the hell are we talking about Dogma for on a horror movie show? But for those of y'all who have seen this movie before, you should know there are more than enough horrific elements here in this film to, at the very at least, make Dogma horror adjacent or suspense thriller adjacent. There are 5 points here with Dogma that we are going to be discussing with you tonight. The first of which is 4K is the way. As I said, there is a new physical 4K release coming out on December 9th. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Number 2, planetary indulgence makes this Kevin Smith's best. Number 3, Jay and Silent Bob strike it big. Number 4, villains indeed give us the willies. And number 5, the message is what matters. So those are going to be the 5 things we're going to be diving into here over the course of this review. But before we get there, of course, make sure you're hitting the subscribe button, hit that follow button no matter where you are tuning in, y'all. We got a lot of great content on the channel right now, including our look at the teaser trailer for the first ever horror trivia game show, Better Luck Than Chuck. Go and follow them right now on YouTube and Instagram at Better Luck Than Chuck. We're going to have more information on that show here over the next coming months here. So excited for y'all to see that. And at the end of the show tonight, I'll let you know what's around the corner for me as well too. But let's not waste any more time and jump right on into things. If you have not seen the trailer for Dogma before, currently exiled to Wisconsin, 2 fallen angels find themselves headed for New Jersey after being told of a loophole that can get them back into heaven. The only catch is this loophole will destroy all of humanity if they're successful. It'll be up to a muse, an apostle, 2 stoner prophets, and a descendant of Jesus to save the world. And there it is, folks. That is Dogma. Now, in the course of my review tonight, I'm going to have a couple of testimonials from friends who were so kind to offer that up for my review here tonight. This is a movie that played a very big role in my life and my relationship with religion and faith and all of that. And it turns out I am not the only one, obviously. So I'm going to share a few stories that were given to me by some friends of mine, and I would love to hear from any of y'all who Dogma affected you on a very, very deep level. Tell me about your journey with this film in the comment section as well, too. But let's go ahead and talk about my first point, that 4K is the way. So, back in 2000, Dogma had its original bare bones 1-disc DVD release. I actually owned that for a little while. And then the very next year, they actually put out a 2-disc special edition DVD that actually had quite a large number of special features on it. A few years later, in 2008, Dogma got a Blu-ray release, and since then, that has been the last chance to pick up a physical copy here of the film. Dogma, famously, the rights reverted to the Weinstein Company, and screw them, first of all, but they would not make a deal with Kevin Smith to give the rights back so we could see this on streaming platforms, get a new physical release. But thankfully, in the last couple of years, things have changed. Dogma has just finished up doing a road show. Kevin Smith's been going around and presenting the film. And like I mentioned, coming up here on December 9th, it is getting a physical 4K release and also a new Blu-ray release as well, too. Now, The 4K release is looking the best that we have ever seen this film. I have seen the 4K transfer here, y'all. It is brighter. It is more colorful. The darks pull everything up. It looks tremendous here. And on top of that, all of the special features that came from that 2-disc special edition in 2001 are going to be on this as well, too. But in addition to that, there are a number of new special features coming onto the 4K set as well, too. This includes a new making of documentary that's going to be on top of that. We are also going to get a Q&A that came from the Road Show, presenting Dogma over the last year as well, too, and a number of other extra features on this as well. So without question, because I know there's a low number of people who own Dogma physically, this is something that you're going to want to grab on December 9th when it comes out. You can get the limited edition Steelbook through Lionsgate Limited right now, and Umbrella Entertainment is actually selling a Blu-ray special edition that comes with some physical collector's pieces as well, too. Check those out, pick it up, because 4K is the way to go. We have been waiting almost 2 decades for a new physical release of Dogma. Show them that it is absolutely worth it. With that, though, before we get into our next few points, I want to jump into the first testimonial that was sent over to me from my friend Annika. Again, I asked a few of my friends to tell me if Dogma affected you on a deep level throughout your life. I want to hear your relationship with it. My friend Annika said, "When I saw Dogma for the first time, I was in first grade. Some would say that's far too young, and I didn't have quite a relationship with religion at the time, but it stayed with me as I got older. It lent a lens through which I saw the world as a whole around me. I was struck by God being a woman, by the ways humor and humanity were woven together with violent absurdity. As with any Kevin Smith film, to watch it once is never enough. Every moment, every scene shows something new to examine at different stages in life. I feel it's one of the most poignant and important films in cinema, a must watch for anyone struggling in the relationship to or deconstruction of religion. And as always, Snoochie Boochies." Thank you so much for offering that, Annika, because that very much mirrors a lot of my thoughts about my journey with this film growing up as well, too, that I'll get to a bit later. Now, jumping back into the story here of Dogma, the idea again here is that these 2 angels who were exiled from heaven find out that if they go to this church in New Jersey, they'll basically be absolved of all of their sins, and then if they die, they can return back to heaven. But by doing so, that would prove that God is not infallible, and therefore it would wipe out all of existence. And therefore, the Metatron, the voice of God, enlists God's great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandniece, along with the 13th apostle Rufus, who says that Jesus is a black man, 2 stoner prophets, Jay and Silent Bob, who save the great-grandniece of Jesus Christ, Bethany, from being killed, and a muse who's responsible for most of the top grossing films of all time. They all have to make their way to New Jersey in order to stop these angels from being successful. And the great thing about this story that is very, very Lord of the Rings like, very Fellowship like, is the fact that everybody has their motivations for this journey. Everybody does actually have some kind of actual reason for being on this mission, and by the end of it, everybody has some kind of reconciliation with either their own faith or their relationship with God. And I love that attention to detail that Smith puts into this movie. That feeds into my second point, that Planetary Indulgence makes this Kevin Smith's best film. Anyone who is a Kevin Smith fan, they have a favorite film out of his catalog, of course. And there's a lot of winners there. But Dogma tends to set itself aside from all the rest of these movies due to it being so personal for director and writer Kevin Smith. You know, he had begun writing this film before his first movie, Clerks. And after he had finished Clerks, rather than taking this on as his next project, Smith decided that he really, really wanted to be the best filmmaker that he could before he got around to doing this very, very personal tale. So he goes on to make Mallrats, he makes Chasing Amy, and then he decides that he's gained the skill, he's ready to go ahead and put this movie out. And in the meantime, he's been working on this script the entire time, changing stuff, adding stuff, taking stuff out to get the absolute perfect script. And when you think and hear about some of those things, for the fact that Bethany, who is working at an abortion clinic in the finished film, but originally was a stripper, The fact that Azrael, the demon played by Jason Lee, that's putting this entire plan into concoction here, wasn't really seen until the third act of the film, and now he's pretty much all over the movie and not in the third act itself. To casting decisions, like the fact that Jason Lee was originally going to be playing Matt Damon's role of Loki, and that Emma Thompson was originally going to be playing God before she had to drop out and Alanis Morissette took it over. You can see a lot of touches here on this film that shows that Kevin Smith is fine-tuning over the course of a decade, and the finished project really shows his dedication to putting out the absolute best script and best production that he can. It is so fine-tuned compared to a number of his other projects, which are such a lot of fun. You know, his movie Red State, that I see as a spiritual sequel to Dogma, is my second favorite film of his there, but yet still, what he did with Dogma stands out so much more than any of the other movies that he's brought to us. And maybe that's what brings me to my third point here, that Jay and Silent Bob strike it big. Here's the thing. You either get the appeal of Jay and Silent Bob or you don't. There is no in between with this one. You either love them or you absolutely hate them. But based on their appearances pre and post Dogma, I do think that there is a stigma that gets associated with those two lovable characters of being overly pervy, overly mean, and overly crass, which is fair in a number of other non-Dogma projects, but that's what makes Dogma all the more impressive, and the way that Jay and Silent Bob are portrayed in this film, much more impressive as well, too. It's like Smith found the right balance at that point, and considering they had only shown up 3 times prior to Dogma coming out here, and they've been in so much more since, you could say that the characters were still being worked on. But he finds this great balance that allows them to not only still remain like the biggest addition of comedy here to Dogma, but on top of that, they serve so much usefulness in this as well too. Movies like Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, which I'm a 90s kid, so of course that's been a few months as my favorite film, like I'm sure it did with a number of you. That film and Jay and Silent Bob reboot do a good job of making Jay and Silent Bob incredibly important, but I think a lot of folks could argue, if you look at Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, that is very much a movie that is about nothing compared to Reboot, which is a lot more about life and a lot more personal, kind of like the way that Dogma is. But again, the way that they are portrayed in all these other films, they are written to be far more over the top. And the fact that somehow, again, this manages to be Smith's most grounded film, that also brings down the antics of Jay and Silent Bob. That's not to say they're not making crass jokes, they're not pervy, they're not being, rude and mean in certain places here. But the thing is the fact we're watching a movie about angels and shit demons, what they're saying and doing doesn't actually come off as over the top. It's not too much compared to what we might typically be used to with them. And since Dogma has come out, while we've gotten some great turns from Jason Mewes as Jay and Kevin Smith as Silent Bob, I still think Dogma remains their absolute height. This would be what I would show to people if I wanted to show them the appeal of it. It's kind of like Nightmare on Elm Street, to where Dream Warriors really is the best iteration of Freddy Krueger. He's not too scary, he's not nightmare fuel and overly jokey. It's a good mix of it, and that's what Jay and Silent Bob do here in Dogma. It's the perfect balance, just what they need here for this. I want to read my other testimonial that I have from my friend Jessica Dixon, who, if you caught my review for Queens of the Dead, her church actually got utilized for a scene at the beginning of that film, which is so cool. But Jessica actually offered me a couple things here when I told her I was looking for folks to share stuff about Dogma. Jessica said, I remember before it came out, I was already a Kevin Smith fan, and I remember driving somewhere with my mom and him being interviewed on NPR about the Catholicism of it all and his perspective, making me want to see it all the more. Much of the theology of it, the parts that aren't clearly farce, being in line with what mine has always been. I've never believed that belief itself with the right theology, whatever that might mean, would mean much of anything to Jesus. He mostly talked about how people act and treat one another, so he behaved himself accordingly. So the loving and even silly sort of God represented in the movie works for me too. I have always believed that questions are good in challenging power structures too. So I loved it for the Kevin Smith sort of farce and comedy involved, and found the theology to be enhanced by the hyperbolic way religion is represented in the film. We in the church deserve the questioning, testing, and rejection of the things we do and says that are BS. Jesus did the same thing to the religious leadership of his own time. It's a big part of what the Gospels show him doing, so I think he'd like it too. I think that's a fantastic way to come to this film, because honestly, I think that folks in the church likely can be a little bit more open to a film like this, especially in today's day and age, because there has to be different ways to bring up ideas of faith and religion and God to folks who aren't sure or who are in a crisis of faith, like I was when I first saw this, and I'm sure so many of you who have seen it since at that point. And to hear that somebody involved in this part of the church was able to kind of integrate it into her own beliefs and using that as a tool in the church as well just shows how effective that Smith's messaging is in all of this. And that's not the only thing effective here, because my next point is that the villains here definitely came to give us the willies. Beyond the fact that I think these are the best characters that Kevin Smith has written, I think without question, these are the best villains that have been featured in his film. Whether it's Azrael, his demon lackeys, the angel Bartleby, or the Golgothan itself, Smith writes all of these characters with such conviction and determination that, combined with these terrific performances, it is hard not to find yourself being wrapped up in the causes that these various villains are taking up here throughout the movie. You know, Affleck's Bartleby plays the straight man to Matt Damon's Loki, and that's kind of right on the head. The name Loki itself, it's supposed to be obviously like, you know, the trickster god that we've seen in so many other things since Dogma has come out here. But most of the time throughout the film, when Affleck is playing the straight man, he's supposed to be remaining calm and not really showing too much emotion. But then we see these little cracks that come out from time to time to where he goes off the deep end and has to rein it back. And when he hits that third act, and at that point, he understands the ruse. He understands that what he's doing is going to destroy everything. It's when Affleck becomes unhinged and becomes truly terrifying. This is without question one of Ben Affleck's best performances. I think a lot of people go back to what he did as Holden in Chasing Amy prior to this, but I think this is the stronger performance out of the two, because he really has to show a completely different side when we finally get to that third act. But not to be outdone, Jason Lee as Azrael is no slouch with this either. Kind of like Bartleby is in this one. Azrael throughout like the early parts of this film is very mild mannered. He's very nice. He's very suave. He's very smooth. He's a demon that you honestly like. And yeah, we see him do some terrible things, but the disdain in his voice is almost endearing. And when we get again to the third act, that he doesn't actually have that much time in the third act, like, it's kind of like it got reversed, what I was saying earlier. When we get to this third act here and he finally lets it all out, like Ben Affleck, Jason Lee also puts in his own terrifying performance as well. I think that the villains in this again strike home so much deeper, because again, their conviction is going to have them wipe out absolutely everything just to escape the existence that they themselves have been living in. This movie, again, is superb, but man, these villains are even better. And that includes a shit demon. And this brings me to my final point here. The message is what matters. One of the reasons this film has stuck with me for so long, for decades at this point, is that the message that I take from it, specifically something that Rufus says, I feel like it placed me on the same kind of journey that Bethany goes through in this film, that a lot of you have likely gone through as well too. Whether you're questioning whether faith means the same thing, whether this makes you a bad believer or whatever, like there's so much that comes in the ground in this relationship you might have with religion and faith and God. And Rufus's message to say the message is what counts, but folks who build their faith on that message are colorblind. The idea here that you can have faith, you can have belief, but the moment that you start going overboard with that, it can turn into something dangerous that hurts a lot of other people. But you can change an idea. I love that because growing up, there was a lot that I was reading, a lot that was being said when I was going to church that I didn't necessarily agree with or I didn't see as accurate. And this film basically offered that that's okay to feel that way. That doesn't mean that you've lost your faith, that you've lost this relationship. And folks that keep kind of hammering that in, they're the ones that are kind of a little bit pulled back from what's in front of them compared to you yourself. And I love that Dogma gives a legitimate alternative to the tradition that most of us have grown up raised as. I am not Catholic. And this is obviously a film that is geared towards the Catholic religion. You know, I grew up Christian, but I still feel the message here that what Smith is trying to say, it appeals to, quite frankly, all religions about the idea that you can just have an idea. And that is enough to carry this relationship that you're going to have in your life, however important or non-important that you're going to allow it to be for you. Smith putting in his own relationship into all of this makes it so much more of an important message that is able to be related to so easily. It makes this an incredible film, and it's for these reasons why it's so easy for me to give Dogma a 5 out of 5. Again, this is a movie that has really touched my life and has changed my outlook on the way that I truly go about living things over the last 25 years at this point. And I think that if I were to see this movie today for the first time, it would affect me just as much as it did when I first saw it back in 99 or 2000. I am so curious about your own thoughts on this one and maybe the journey that Dogma took you on growing up in your life as well too. So let me know in the comment section here your thoughts on this incredible film. And of course, get subscribed to my link tree, as that is the best way to stay on top of all the content that I'm gonna be dropping for y'all. You can do that by going to linktr.ee/T scary movie. If you get subscribed, that's going to be access to the YouTube page for the video versions of the show, your favorite podcasting platforms, the audio only versions of the show, my Letterboxd page for written reviews and movie rankings through the year, my TikTok page for short horror content including movie news and movie premieres, my Twitch page for horror gaming including Phasmophobia, and my Fangoria shop page where you can enjoy a 20% discount off anything at the Fangoria shop. Take advantage of that, y'all. Hit that subscribe button. We got a lot of great stuff coming up for y'all here. Tomorrow, folks, we are going to be talking Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein. This new epic, new adaptation of the Mary Shelley classic is now out on Netflix. I'm going to bring you all of the details here for you. And then next day, we are going to be talking the first 4 episodes of the Talamasca. So we got a lot of good stuff here coming up for y'all here. And then next week, we're going to be diving into episode 3 of Welcome to Derry. We're going to be talking Shelby Oaks, the Toxic Avenger, the original film. A lot more fun stuff coming your way. So hit subscribe, hit follow. You don't want to miss any of this. But that's going to do it for me tonight, y'all. My name is T. We'll be talking scary movies. Stay scared.